Folks, this afternoon's little, not so much for a rant, but just a reminder. Not a rant, a reminder. Perhaps that's the new name for all this. Jesus once said something which we should all know. So I need to remind myself and you of what it is that he said 2,000 years ago, which wasn't rocket science. And you certainly don't need rocket science to get to heaven. And a rocket can only get you just about to the moon, maybe to Mars, maybe a little further. But will it actually get you back? Will it get you there alive? Well, anyway, the point is, Jesus said something that surely you know. A real identifier as to whether you are, in fact, a real believer. Whether you're on the right side of the line or not. And there is a line. And there is no fence to sit on. And you'll never really have a chance to jump from that fence, if there was one, onto the correct side. How do you know what the correct side is? Well, you follow God. You follow God and you follow what he has said. And what he has said is the truth. Jesus claimed to be the way, the truth, and the life. So you don't need to look any further. He said in John's Gospel in chapter 13 many things. That was 13, not 30. That's the Wiltshire accent taking over. In John's Gospel in chapter 13, it's broken up into divisions so we can easily find things. It's not hard for any of us to find anything, let alone the truth. And actually the truth isn't any distance from any one of us. If you read Acts 17, you'll find a reminder there also that God isn't far from anyone. And if only we would reach out, we'd find that he was there all along. In John's Gospel in chapter 13, he says, a new commandment. It wasn't actually a new one. So why does he say that? Well, we'll get to that another time. A new commandment I give to you. And he spoke to his disciples, but he speaks to all who need to learn. And don't we all of us, me included, need to learn? And he is the teacher. We should only have one teacher, and it's him. You might respect your teacher from school, that's great. You might respect some learned friend or neighbour or loved one, that's great. But we only have one teacher. You might respect your pastor. You might respect a preacher. You might respect a world leader. That's great, that's fine, whatever. But we have one teacher, one to learn from. And we should learn from him. And he says, a new commandment I give to you, that we should love one another just as I have loved you. We should love one another. Does that sum up your life? Oh, hang on a minute, isn't there a little bit more? By this shall all men and women, boys and girls, know that you are my disciples if you love one another. If you love one another as I have loved you. Now, we may all have enemies. If you are a follower of the one true way, you love them. Whether they're enemies or not, they're not your enemies. They might be enemies to you, but they're not your enemies. Now, I know a number of people that would classify themselves as, Jonathan Brain is an enemy of mine. Do you know what? If they came to my door, if I bump into them, do you know what I'll do? Will I whack them one? Will I give them a stern warning? Will I act like an enemy? No. If they will let me, I will cry on their shoulders. If they let me, I will embrace them and I'll hug them and I'll take them in. If they let me. There are many, perhaps even in our own lives, that claim one thing but do another. They're not disciples. They're not followers of the one true way. If you want to be a follower of the one true way, you need to love one another, Jesus says. It's a command. If it's new to you, grab hold of it. If you think you know it already, but your heart isn't filled with love for some, you're not a follower of the one true way. Truth and life isn't yours. You might think it is, but it is. But it's not. A new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another as I have loved you. Even that you should love one another. And by this, if you love one another, by this shall all men and women, boys and girls, know that you are my disciples. Then they'll know. Because they can observe and they can see that you actually do love one another. Now, doesn't mean you gotta like everyone. Not everyone likes me. Not everyone loves me, and that's fine. But we must love one another. Do you love one another? Do you love no matter what? Would you embrace me? Would you run to me? Probably not. Well, don't claim to really be a Christian unless you would. And may God enlighten me and you and us all to more of the way, the truth, and the life, and the actual love that we should have one for another. God bless you all. I do actually know how to turn this off. It's this button here.